My friends, welcome back. In the last video, we talked about some of the most common list operations, right? In today's video, we're going to talk about something I would say almost as important, but like at the end of the day, there is Python functions, like built-in functions for that. So it's just another practice. We're gonna work on sorting algorithms, right? Let's say that you have a list and you want to sort it for now in an ascending way, right? Let's get started. As always, let's just generate random list. I'm gonna use the easy way of doing it. So I'm gonna go, uh, I don't know, L equals random dot sample, and he remembered that, right? Range, let's say from 1 to 100, and then we want to have 10 elements. Before getting started, actually, let me show you something. Sometimes you write functions, and then you want to use those functions in a separate file, right? You don't have to copy and bring everything over to your new script, right? And so to deal with those cases, a very Pythonic way is to go like this. If underscore underscore, so two underscores, name underscore underscore again equals, and it's a string here. It says main again underscore underscore, then do this. So it means only do this if this is the main script that I'm calling, right? Like in case you wanted to use the function, say you define your functions all here, and then you want to call that in a separate function. You don't want to everything be printed here, right? That's why we do this. Anyway, so let's go here. L is this. It's a good practice. Like you always do this when I'm coding, so you might as well do the same thing. Okay, so this is my random list, and let's say it gives me something like, I don't know, 2710587 again, and 3. How do we want to do this? There is a lot of ways, and as I said, the way that like we're implementing here is not by any means the most efficient way. We just want to practice. How am I gonna approach this is that I'm gonna compare the first two values, actually every single two values, right? So I'm gonna compare 2 to 7. If 2 is less than 7, don't touch it, right? But if 2 is less than 7, then swap values. And then compare the next two, right? And then compare the next two, and so on and so forth. And I'm gonna do this until the moment I say the word until, you're thinking of while loop, right? I'm gonna do this until nothing is swapped anymore. It means that it is all sorted. Let's get started then. I'm gonna define a function, like I can define my function here. That's okay. I can go define, and I'm gonna name it my sort, right? And it gets a list, my list, right? And let's see what we want to do here. Okay, and let's start it. I'm gonna define something as sorted. You notice that it became blue, right? Because it's a keyword. Python knows this, but I don't really want to talk about that for now. I'm gonna go sorted list equals my list, right? This is supposed to be the list that I return sorted values, right? But for now, I initialize it with the given list, right? And I'm gonna go swap values equals for now length of my list. I'm just gonna assume that everything needs to be swapped, right? And then we can start a while loop, right? Like you can comment here if you want to, so you won't forget what you're doing. But like this is pretty straightforward. But here I'm gonna go while swap value is not 0. What am I doing here? Until all the values are sorted, right? So while this, don't forget the color. What do we want to do? While this, we want to compare the values, right? And see like how it's like. So I'm gonna go swap round equals 0 because in each round, I want to start counting how many numbers I'm swapping, right? It doesn't like when it gets to this while loop here, it says the swap value is not 0, it's something else. And it goes inside because this condition is true. And as soon as it goes inside, I set it to 0. It does everything that comes in here because it's not checking the condition anymore, right? And then like once it's done, it comes back again to the while and then checks the value. That's why it's okay to do this like this. And I'm gonna loop through all the values. I'm gonna go for I in range of let's say len of sorted value. Sorted list, right? Because I'm looping through all the values of the sorted thing. For all the elements, if sorted list at position I, right, is greater than sorted list at position I plus 1. This should not be true if the condition, if the list is sorted, right? If position I is greater than position I plus 1, then it is not sorted, at least not in an ascending way. So if that condition was true, we want to swap the values. We want to put the value of I plus 1, like index I plus 1, in here, and then this value in here. To do this, I'm going to need an auxiliary variable name, because if I assign this to this, then I'm going to lose the value of this. So I need to save it somewhere here. I'm going to go E for element equals sorted list I, right? And now I can swap them. Now I can go sorted list I equals, it gets this value in here. Sorted list I plus 1. And just copy this to save some time. I plus 1 is then equal to E, which is the old value of this guy in here, right? Which we saved. So far so good. And then because we need a swap, I'm gonna go swap wow plus equal 1, right? And so it loops through the whole thing. If it was 0, then it means that everything is sorted. And I'm gonna go here and say return sorted list. So this is the function that we have, right? Now let's try to see if that works. It's my sort, and then I go here, I generate my list, and I say, let's go, I don't know, sorted out equals my sort, and then I'm gonna use that, right? Let's see what's gonna happen. I'm gonna add the breakpoint in here, right? So that we can go through the function steps and see what happens. And I go here and I go debug file, right? Let's just see what's gonna happen. Okay, so we're here. We called the function, and then you can see the list L. It's defined here. Let me just use this so we can see what's happening here. So this is the random list that we generated, and now we are at the function. Let's see what's gonna happen. If I do this, it's that. it goes to the function. You see, it jumps to the function and it says, okay, my list is this value in here. And what's the next step? It defines the sorted list. And as you see, it is just exactly like the my list, right? Because this is what we're doing here. And then it said swap value is length of my list. So if I do this, then it says, okay, swap value is 10 because you have 10 elements in your list. So let's see, is this condition true? Swap value is 10. It's not equal to 0, so I expect it to jump in. It goes in, and it says swap value is 0 now. And you see these values updated. Now it's 0. And it says for I in this range, let's see. So for the first one, I is 0. So we're comparing the first two elements, 75 and 87. And let's do this. It says if 75, because I is 0, is less than 87, is greater than 87, this condition is not true. So we should not go in there. We don't. We go back up to the for loop. I is 1 now, right? We go here, you can see I is updated. Now it's 1. Now it's comparing the next two values, 87 and 14. This is correct. So we have to go inside the for loop, the if statement. We go, and it says E is sorted list I. So I'm assigning 87 because I is 1, index 1. So this is assigned to E. If we do this, you see variable E is defined, and now it's 87. And I'm swapping the values here, right? And I say sorted list I is sorted list I plus 1. You see sorted list, we have 75, 87, 14. So I'm expecting to see 14 being assigned to this value. So I should see, after running this line, 75, 14, 14, and the rest is the same. Let's see what happens. I do this, and this is exactly what I see. Just to show you something, you see as I updated this, my list got updated too, right? It's okay because I'm not really dealing with my list in here, but to avoid that, you could basically just go in here and say .copy, right? If you do this, then it's not going to change the original list, but it's okay for now. We're not dealing with that. I'm just going to put Control Z so that it doesn't mess up with my thing. And then the next line 19, it says sorted list I plus 1 is E, which is 87. So doing this, you see the values are swapped now. 87 and 14 are swapped. And then we increment the swap value, like how many values did we swap, and then it's obviously 1 now. And then again, right, we go to the next index, and then we do this for all of them. So this is what's going to happen. Let's close that and close this guy as well, and fully rid of this. So you saw how it works. And here I'm just gonna go print. We always go print L without any comments. I want to change that now. I want to go, this is the way that I prefer to print stuff in Python. You put an F and then double quotes, and it means that it's a F string, right? And then I can say the original list is, right? And then whatever comes inside the barely cracked brackets, that's the variable name. So like this is the comment that I'm printing. It's nothing special, right? But whatever comes here, like I go L, right? It's like the actual value of L, which is like, it's a list. L is representing a list. So I'm saying the original list is L. And then I'm going to go \n, which means new line, right? The updated list, or let's say sorted list, didn't need that really, is, again, curly brackets, and I'm gonna go this guy, right? And we don't need the breakpoint anymore here. And let's run this and see what happens. I go here, run Python, and it says, oh, okay, something went wrong. Let's see what went wrong here. It says sorted L equals my sort L, right? There was like in here, there's a mistake, but like when you look at it, it says, well, this is like, I was trying to run your function, but I failed, I couldn't. It's because of this line in here, right? It says list index out of range. That makes sense because here we have I and I plus 1, and we are looping through the, all the elements in the list. So we get to the last one, and when it does this, it says, well, I'm like I is pointing to the last index. So I plus 1 is out of range. I don't know the value. So what I'm going to do here is just to go to the second last one, and that should fix my problem because the last one is taken care of using the plus 1 in here. We'll clear that and run that again and look at this. It says the original list is 5, 13, 33, 38. You see, they have the same values, right? Because we messed up with the thing, because like we updated this. So to fix that, I'm going to go what I told you that I'm going to do. My list.copy. Let's do this now. And now it's much better. And just to align this perfectly, I just need 2 spaces, right? It's 2 spaces. So that it's easy to compare. And I'm just going to clear this in here and then run this again. So it says the original list is 35, 91, this, so on and so forth. And then the sorted list is 2, 5, 14, 35, 41, 49, and so on. It is list, right? It is sorted. Perfectly fine. We can do something else too. Like you can add an option here that says ascending or descending, right? So it can go by default, right? I'm gonna go sort type, and actually, let's do it this way. Ascending is true. This is how you define a default value for something, right? So I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna say if ascending, let's just make it ascending sort. So if ascending sort, this is already a Boolean value, so it's already true or false. So I'm saying if it's ascending sort, then do what we did, right? Else, in case you define it as a false here, or like gave it a false value, then return what we learned in the last video. Column, -1. Reverse it and give it back to me. You can obviously, this is actually good practice for you. Try to do that yourself. Like try to calculate it. Like instead of doing it this way, try to change something in the loops or maybe in here in the if statements so that you do it descending, right? But I try to do it this way because I feel like it's easier. So if the ascending sort input to the function was true, which by default it's true. And when I say by default is that you see how this function now has 2 inputs. If I call it just like this with 1 input, because the second one already has a value assigned to it, it has a default value, it's going to go by the default. It says, okay, you didn't give it a second value. I'm just going to assume that this is whatever the default is. And the other thing that you need to know is that the inputs that have default values cannot come first. So if you have something that doesn't have a default value, it has to come first. So just to show you what's going on here now, let's run it this way. And you see, it's sorted, no problem. And if I go false, right, it's gonna be in a decent, right? So let's do this and run it. And yes, 86 is the greatest one, comes in the very first position, and then all the way to the 7, which is the smallest value in our list. That is how that is at least one way of defining a sort function. And then you can obviously, like, Python has the sorted L. Wait, it gets the value and prints returns the sorted value of a list L. We can see that as well. Let's see. I'm just gonna change that to true, or you can just like remove that because it's defaulted to true. And if I run this, you see we get the same thing. So this is the original list. This is the sorted one using your own sort function. And this is the Pythonic way of doing it, which is basically just called sorted, right? If you're using this, make sure that all the elements in your list are same type, right? Like we told you before that you cannot, to define a list, you can have integers, floats, strings, combination of those and everything. But when it comes to sorting a list, you cannot obviously compare integer 5 with string hello, because that just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, so this is how we do the sort. And don't forget, practice here, see if you can implement it in other ways. And let me know in the comment section if you have any questions or if you want me to focus on something else. Thank you for joining me today. Take care. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.